With Valentine's Day only weeks away, it is the perfect time to take these standard packet colour polymer clays and turn them into a beautiful custom colour palette. Today I'm going to share 8 super simple recipes so that you can recreate these colours for yourself. The colours that we're going to be using today are from both the Sculpey Premo and the Sculpey Souffle range. I'm starting here with Souffle Raspberry. We also have some Premo Peacock Pearl and also some Premo Fluorescent Pink. We'll be mixing all of these colours with either the Premo Pearl. This will give it a beautiful shimmer. Otherwise, we're going to mix with Souffle Ivory. This one will lighten and soften the colours and just make that beautiful colour palette that we are after. So all of the recipes that I am sharing today are super simple. So if you're a beginner just starting out, these colours are definitely achievable. Otherwise, if you're a more experienced clay person and you're just looking for some inspiration on colours, then hopefully this will help. So whilst I prep my colours, I'm going to give you a quick little overview on colour mixing. So if you've seen my colour recipes before, my colour mixing recipes before, or you've done this before, you might just want to skip ahead whilst I am preparing these clays. So the first thing that we're going to do is cut a nice chunk of each colour. So I like to slightly condition them just to make sure that they are easy to work with, but not too soft. They'll condition more as we mix them up anyway. If you've ever worked with any of the Pearl range before, you'll know why it is important that we definitely make sure that those ones are conditioned. Because during the production process, they use some pigments to create that pearl effect, and they can sometimes not be sitting evenly within that block. So we just need to make sure that we condition these colours to get that effect nicely mixed through and evenly through the pieces that we are using. You'll see here as I'm conditioning this Peacock Pearl, you'll see that parts of it are slightly darker than the other bits. So we do just want to make sure that that gets all mixed through nice and even, and you'll see how beautiful the effect is once it is nicely evenly distributed. And so even though I use my pasta machine for conditioning and also for the colour mixing, I do like to start with the acrylic roller first. I don't always roll as much as I am with this Peacock Pearl. What I do is just a couple of rolls just to get it a little bit softer, take it down to a thinner thickness, and then I'm able to put it through the pasta machine. I don't want to put too much pressure or strain on the gears of the machine, so just by bringing it down slightly thinner, that just makes it easier to go through the machine. So if you do have a pasta machine, it makes colour mixing a lot easier and quicker. But if you don't, you just simply use your acrylic roller or even just your hands to roll the clay through, roll it, twist it, and just get those colours mixed up. So just something else to watch out for if this is the first time that you are doing colour mixing is because we're doing a lot of conditioning, a lot of folding and rolling, we want to make sure that we are reducing the amount of bubbles that are being put or air being put into the polymer clay. So we don't want it getting trapped, which then causes bubbles in our products later. So when we roll and fold, always make sure that those seams of the fold are put to the side, and that way it just helps to squish the air out of that clay and hopefully reduce those bubbles. So with the pasta machine, the thing that I like most about it is kind of a dual benefit of using the pasta machine. So not only does it make it easier and faster to condition and mix the colours, it's also putting each of our clays at the same thickness. So if you don't have the pasta machine, you can use a levelling guide because part of our making portions is making sure they are all the same thickness. The other part of the portions is making sure they are all the same size once we cut them out. So I like to use a shape cutter. I find it much easier than doing weighing or other methods of portioning out. So a shape cutter, today's recipes are super simple, so we don't need to break up each of these portions too much. So they're either full portions or half portions. So I decided to use the heart because it just is a cute Valentine's colour palette. So I thought, why not just use this little heart-shaped cutter for our portions? If we were going to be doing a more complicated colour recipe where we're going down to quarters, eighths, sixteenths even, then I would use probably a circle or a square shape cutter because that is easier to portion down. But yeah, because we're just doing the full portion or a half portion, the heart is symmetrical, so that works well enough for those portions. And so I'm just going to cut out a whole bunch of these. I haven't rolled out enough pearl or ivory actually, because they are our main ingredients on all these colour palettes. So yeah, I'm going to have to make some more in a minute. But the benefit of putting it through that pasta machine is that I can just scrunch up those scraps, whack it back through the machine, and it will all be that same thickness again. So that's what I'll be doing throughout the process today, is just putting those scraps back through and then being able to cut out some more colours. I also thought I would just quickly mention colour substitution. So if you have or don't have the same colours that I have here, but you substitute them with a different brand or a different colour, obviously your colours are going to turn out slightly different. They may also turn out slightly different even using the same colours because of screen resolutions. So that teal pearl is looking quite blue on my screen at the moment, even though it is more of that tealy colour. Yeah, so there will be slight differences, but trust me, the colours in the end are all absolutely beautiful. So it is definitely worth colour mixing them up. Even if you do have to substitute colours, just make sure that you write down the colours that you've used in your recipe and take a sample of it. That way you will again be able to reproduce those colours in future. So with each of today's colours, I am going to be recording the recipes down so that you can write them down as well, and then that way you've got them for future reference. I'm going to pop all of my colours now to the side just so that I've got a bit of space to work on. They look really good all lined up. They're all nice and colourful. These are the colour recipe cards that I will be recording the recipes on today. So there's a space for a sample as well as the recipe. We do sell these cards in our store. Otherwise, you could always just jump online and design one, get them printed off into business cards, or use the back of an old business card or a notebook or something. But it definitely helps to have all of your recipes all together so that you've got them for future reference. Right, so we are jumping straight into the mixing now. So our very first recipe contains 1 portion of raspberry and 2 portions of pearl. So this is just a base recipe. If you would like more product made, you just double or quadruple or just multiply out those portions. But as long as the base portion is 1 raspberry, 2 pearl, your colour should turn out the same as this one. Sometimes I find that the colours aren't mixing in from around the edges, so I'll do a double fold like this one here, just folding both ends into the centre and then putting it through the machine and then going again, and this kind of folds those edges into the middle of the piece and helps to mix those colours through properly. It's definitely better to mix more than not mix enough because you don't want a streak of one of the original colours visible. And so once I'm happy with how the colour has turned out, I always like to cut a little sample piece and I write the recipe down. I'll bake up those sample pieces afterwards and glue them on the recipe card so that they are there for future reference. It also helps when you're designing a product, you're able to actually see what colours you have available, and then yeah, it just helps to be able to visualise a colour palette for your design. Next up, another super simple one. So it's 2 portions of pearl with 1 portion of the fluorescent pink. And there we have a beautiful, I'm going to say it's candy-like colour. It's really pretty. I like this pink. So again, just going to cut the sample and then write the recipe down for you guys. Right, so up to recipe number 3. So for this one, we're going to take that beautiful peacock pearl and we're going to chop it in half because we only need a half portion. We also need 1 part of fluoro pink, 3 parts of pearl, and then 1 part ivory. And we shall mix these together. Whilst I'm mixing these, I thought I would just share a little story about the perfect purple that I once created. So it was a couple of years ago and it was Christmas time, and I designed I think it was a slab for some earrings, and I used a fluoro pink and I used a teal, which I think may have been a custom mix, but I don't remember. It also included a white and some other colours, and I did this design and I hated it. It looked terrible. So I just grabbed the whole thing and just popped it through the pasta machine and mixed up all those scraps. And what came out was the most beautiful purple colour. Well, I have never been able to reproduce that colour ever again. As I just mentioned, I think the teal colour had been a custom mix. So for that reason, I've never been able to reproduce it. So I always like to try different versions. This one is definitely a lot more muted than what that colour was. The perfect purple was a lot brighter. It must have contained more of the fluorescent pink or something, I'm not sure. But yes, my challenge in life is to find and to recreate that perfect purple again. Okay, anyway, back to this lilac colour that we have created. So just stuck the sample on and then I'll write the recipe down. I'll also let you in on a little secret about those samples. So whilst they are raw, they're sticking onto that paper fine. So what I'm going to do is just put all my cards with those samples on a baking tray and pop them into the oven only for about 10 minutes. It will bake those samples up to be firm enough that I can then pull them off and glue them straight back onto the card, and it won't affect the card won't catch fire or anything because it's a low temp and it's not for too long. But that way I can keep track of what samples go with what card. Right, so this one is a quickie. It is 2 ivory and 1 fluoro pink, and it equals this gorgeous colour here. So at this point of my colour mixing, I thought, you know what, I've actually got a small little love heart cutter. So instead of doing those circle samples, I should be cutting little hearts out, because that way I'll know that it all goes with that same collection. So yeah, I'm going to start doing the hearts from now, and I will probably go back over and recut out some other hearts of those other colours afterwards, because that's cuter, isn't it? Look at that. That's really cute. Love that. Okay, so our next recipe, I'm actually going to make a double quantity of it. So our base recipe is 1 raspberry with 2 ivory, but I'm actually going to double it because I want some more of this colour. So we're going to make it 2 raspberry and 4 ivory. Right, let's mix them ones together. You may also notice that I have a new pasta machine. I got this one at Christmas time and I love that it is black. It is absolutely gorgeous. But if you want to see the details about it, head back to my craft room restock video that I did the other week, my first one back for the year, and that will show you all the details on what brand it is, and yeah, I show you the unboxing and everything with that. So yeah, this is my new pasta machine and I love her. And so even though we mixed that double recipe up, I am just going to put the base recipe down on my card here. So yep, the 1 raspberry and 2 ivory. Next up, we have a beautiful bright pink. This one is actually really, really lovely. So it's 1 part raspberry with 1 part of the fluoro pink. But again, I'm just going to double my recipe. And this time I thought I would mix it just using the acrylic roller. So I have popped it into double speed because it obviously takes a lot longer using the roller. So yeah, just speed it up and then you'll see the end in just a moment. Okay, so now we are coming into our final 2 recipes. This is the last of our pinks. So I needed a more of a paler pink because they were all quite bright at the moment. So we're just going with half raspberry and 3 ivory. Now, if you wanted even more pastel, you could definitely add either more ivory to this mix or divide that half raspberry down even further, so maybe just a 1/4 raspberry. In that case, you would definitely need to be using a symmetrical cutter because you wouldn't be able to halve that one quite so even. Anyway, I'm going to mix this one up and yeah, create that beautiful pastel pink colour. So last up with this colour palette, I just wanted to create a nice neutral colour. A lot of the times in my designs, I like to use a neutral base colour and then add the brighter colours to the top. So this one here is a beautiful creamy pearl colour with the 3 parts pearl and 1 part ivory. It just, yeah, it fits in the colour palette really nicely and it's just a nice neutral colour. Another neutral which I debated whether to put into this colour palette or not, but I decided not to because I have mixed it previously before, is a combination of white and grey granite. So mixing those 2 colours together, the white and the grey granite, you get a beautiful white speckled colour. But I didn't include it today just because I have done it previously. But if that sounds like something that interests you, head back over and check out my other colour mix recipes because that one is featured a couple of times, I think. Sorry, I will stop yapping and get back to today's colours. So here are the ones we have created today. Beautiful Valentine's palette. I'm going to be creating with these over the next week or so, so definitely check out my shorts here on YouTube as well as over on Instagram. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have enjoyed coming along with me and hopefully it has inspired you for some new projects yourself. I'll be back next week with another tutorial, so I hope you'll join me then. Thanks for coming along today and I'll see you next week. Bye!